guys, it's Kelly here, and I am back with another Casing Genius video, and I'm going to be using some Create a Smile products today. The ornament stamp set and I'm sorry, the stencil, the Make-A-Wish stamp set, and then I showed you the My Favorite Things diagonal stripe stencil because I had all intentions of using it, but I didn't, so that was a lie. I apologize. So I wanted to do Mary Dawn, Kieran Dongo is my genius for this week, and her cards had lots of beautiful watercoloring on it, so I really wanted to embrace that. So I got everything taped down here. I'm working on Canson watercolor paper, and I have left a circle area in the middle of my card, middle right of my card, completely dry because that's where I'm going to put my ornament. Now, if you are watching this on my blog, you are probably thinking this does not look anything like any of Mary Dawn's cards, and you would be correct. But I used elements from her cards that I really loved. So I put down some yellow and a little bit of blue, and I decided to bring in some like lime green. On Mary Dawn's first card, she has lots of open stencils with beautiful watercoloring, and these colors were pulled from there. So I put down a bunch of color, really dark color, and now I'm going to allow it to bleed into that dry area just a little bit. So I'm laying down clear water, and then I'm just barely touching it to the edges. I'm going to let it move just a little bit because I didn't want white just right up against my my ornament. I wanted it there to be some color behind it. So then after that, I'm going to start moving it around and sucking up some pigment with just a dry cloth. I'm not being particular. I'm just trying to get some of the pigment up. I felt like the background was too bold. And I'm using the Gambi Tansy watercolors by Kiritaki. And they do dry back quite a bit, but I still felt like it was too bold. And then just to make sure I'm going to be able to get good color in the center there, I blotted up some of it. I went ahead and hit that with my heat tool, and as you can see, once it's all dry, it really does dry back a lot, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to overtake my card it's supposed to be background. So I'm using the ornament stencil from Create a Smile, and I just grabbed a Copic multi-liner. They're waterproof. I wasn't worried about the size. I just needed to outline it while I had it in place. And then I'm going to use a number 2 round brush by the Artist Loft. I've had you guys ask me about it before. No, I did not buy this with a curved brush. I let it dry in my cup overnight. So don't do that. That was my bad. It's not supposed to look like that. I'm using this to lay down clean clear water. And the reason that I'm using this size to lay down the clean clear water is because I do not want my water to seep underneath my stencil edge. The whole point behind using the stencil is to get that clean shape, and if you put down too much water, no matter how you try to seal it off, it's going to seep under the edge. So I am, just picking up some red, and I am trying to figure out where I want to leave my highlight. And I wanted to leave it in the upper right hand, so I'm being very careful not to add too much color there. I'm adding it more to the left hand side and a little bit to the right. And then I'm going to bring the clean clear water into my highlight area and just kind of let them blend together. I felt like I was trying to be too much of a control freak at this point. So I tried to take a step back and let it do its own thing. Watercoloring, that part of it's very hard for me. I did a little bit of shading with a brighter purple. Mary Dawn had used that again in her first card. That background had some beautiful purples in it, and I didn't want to forget about that entirely. So I decided I would just shade with it, which ended up actually giving me like a really deep magenta red. It's very pretty. I was very happy with the color. So here I am, I'm trying to get those colors to move a little bit into that highlight, and I felt like everything was just kind of very rigid, so I was just adding little droplets of clean clear water and letting it do its own thing. Here's where the fun part comes in. In the set that I have, it has a white metallic paint, so I added that to the left and a little bit to the right to give it some shimmer. And then I'm going in and doing the top of the ornament very lightly with some black. I didn't want it to get too dark because, again, I'm going to add that shimmer on top of it so it looks silver. It started to run down into my ornament, so I wanted to get that real quick, and then I just wanted to reinforce the highlight. These pick up pretty well with just a clean clear cloth, so if things start to get a little dark or they're running together too crazy, or they're just doing something you don't want it to do, just hit it with a dry cloth and you can start all over again. So I heat set that part, and then the wonderful thing about this particular stencil from Create a Smile is it has an open area and then it has like a detail stencil. So this is the detail stencil. And again, I just grabbed whatever marker was laying on my desk and I'm going to outline that. I'm being careful not to do the outside edges. I'm only doing the horizontal edges because I wasn't sure how perfectly my image was lined up. I needed to go ahead and cut down my card base after I had, or on my card panel after I had removed it. And now I'm going to do some shading with some Copic markers. There are people who can do this, who can accomplish good shading with just watercolors. I'm not one of those people, so I just mix my mediums, and that's what works for me. So in order to get some roundness, I'm adding some shading to the sides. I'm starting with my lightest color and I'm using a feathering motion, just a very light hand flicking out toward the center. And then I'm going to use my second darkest color. You can see the depth that you get with just one color. So if you're happy with that, then just leave it. I always feel like, I don't know why I always go like one step too far. But I am happy ultimately with the way that it came out, though it probably didn't need it. So I will tell you with this, with the Copic shading, that Copics blend when they soak into the paper. And where that shimmer was on top of my ornament, I don't think that it allowed the Copic to soak into the paper. So it kind of just like sat on top and created like a little shiny spot. Because I already had shimmer on it, that did not bother me for this piece. But in case you're trying to do something else, and that might bother you, just to give you a heads up, it might do that. So I start with my lightest color, work out to my darkest, and then from my darkest back into my lightest. And I wanted these stripes to be a little darker so that they would stand out. And I love the way that ornament looks, and already it's, really starting to pop off the page and have a 3D appearance, even though it is one layer panel. So yeah, I think it looks super cool. And then the way that I like to get even more dimension is I like to put in a shadow. A lot of times I use my C markers for this, and that's what I'm doing today. So I'm starting with C5. I am shading it as if my light source was in the top right hand corner, and so I put down my darkest, which was C5, and then I'm going to go over that with C3 and then finish the whole thing off with C1. I didn't like how that blended into the background, so I'm going to actually hit it with the 0 marker just to get like a really good blend. And then to make sure that there's a good delineation between the background, I'm bringing in G00. It's a very, very soft green. It's almost a blue green, to be honest. And that matched my background the best. But I will tell you, as I was doing this, because that red was kind of sitting on top of the paper, I did pick it up in some areas. So I just scribbled it off real quick on a scrap piece and then kept going. I'm using a T-square ruler to draw a line so that my ornament is attached to something. And then I just did a little bow. And here's where I'm going to go ahead and fix all that outlining. I picked a good size marker for the image that I had going on. The tip, the size tip. This is a 0.35. And then I am outlining those stripes, the whole thing. Once that was done, I was moving on to the sentiment. And I've had people ask me about what this folder is. This is a Misty. And basically, they're sold by My Sweet Petunia. I think that's the only place that you can get them. And this is just so, you can line them up on your card, pick it up with the folder door, and then you can just stamp them as many times as you need, which is awesome. I would highly recommend it. It's a great tool. I outlined the large wish with my white gel pen. Mary Dawn had used a big bold black sentiment on every single one of her cards. So, which was cool with me because I use it on all of mine too. I popped up my watercolored panel with some yellow craft foam, and then I'm using Robin's Egg cardstock by Basil. My original intention was to use that diagonal stripe there, but I just didn't feel like it matched well. And Mary Dawn had used that color in two of her cards, so I felt like it matched mine, it matched hers. We're all good to go. And then I just used a little strip of black glitter paper from Die Cuts with a View. In the stencil, there's like little notches for like almost like bubbles that would be on top of your ornament or gems. So I filled those in with some sequins from Pretty Pink Posh and Neat and Tangled. And then I used more clear sequins from Pretty Pink Posh just to kind of fill in that sentiment area, and basically because I can make nothing without them. So that is pretty much the card. I feel like I end every video that way. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys later. Thanks. Bye.